Decoding Skills Development Legislation with your host, Darren Vandenberg. Hi all, and welcome to another episode of the Legislation Review. So this week we are starting to discuss recognition of prior learning, or RPL. Now RPL is very interesting in that there are three key policies that drive it. There is the recognition of prior learning coordination policy, which is at government level. Then I have the SACRA, National Policy for RPL, and I have the QCTO policy for RPL. All the CETAs and governing bodies also have policies for RPL, but they all tend to be kind of like a copied and pasted scenario where they're all pretty similar, offering this, saying the same things just in different ways, and offering the same purposes. So I'm going into the next legislation review is around RPL, what RPL is, how it works, how you can make it work for you, and the policies that govern it. So the first one today is around the RPL policy. I just want to show you because I've only got it on my screen, my computer screen. And this one is, a government gazette on RPL. There it is, National Qualifications Framework, Department of Higher Education, Recognition of Prior Learning Coordination Policy. That's where it starts. So to start this review, I'd like just to touch base on what the Education Minister at the time, Mr. Blade Nzimande, said about RPL. And I'll kind of dive a little more into it. So he said this: it is important at this stage of the National Qualifications Framework back in 2016, especially in the light of urgent needs of South African citizens to have previous knowledge, skills and competencies recognized towards access, mobility and career paths, that a national RPL coordination policy is published, which can strengthen further development and implementation of RPL. So simply, RPL says that you have lifelong learning, you have non-formal and informal learning. This has happened through your life, and now the barrier to workplace, where because you don't have a qualification but you have experience, is removed. So you would still build a portfolio of evidence to prove competence based on life experience rather than based on time spent in an institution of some kind. And this is what RPL is about. Okay, so it's quite an important policy. Now the policy goes on, and pretty much for the first kind of couple pages of the policy, it's talking about why the policy was created. So there was a white paper for post-school training, and it talks about recognition of prior learning remains a key approach to redressing past injustices and recognizing competence gained through practical workplace learning and experience. But there's obviously been problems in facilitating a common discussion around it. But it also goes on to say that RPL is to facilitate access, or at least this policy is to facilitate access to mobility and progression within the education and training and career paths, and to accelerate the redress of the past unfair discrimination in education, training and employment opportunities. And this is under the Skills Development Act. So RPL is on the government's mind. It's a very important opportunity, and not just for South Africa, for anywhere around the world, wherever you're based, because this is definitely a game changer, where education or lack of certification, degrees, diplomas, whatever if someone doesn't have that, they don't get into the interview. RPL is a way that you can shift the mindset, so at least they've got the applied skill and they can get into the interview, or they can get into further study. Okay, that's all for today. I'll carry on with this in the next session.